The sky had turned an angry shade of gray, and the wind howled like a wounded animal. Little Leo, a golden retriever puppy with fur as soft as sunlight, pressed himself against his owner's leg, trembling. "It's okay, boy," Jake whispered, scratching behind Leo's ears. But the storm had other plans. A deafening crack split the air. A tree branch snapped, crashing onto their car. Jake had no choice. He tied Leo's leash to a post outside the gas station. "Stay here. I'll be right back," he promised. But when he returned, Leo was gone. The leash dangled, frayed at the end. Jake's heart stopped. He screamed Leo's name until his voice broke, but the storm swallowed his cries. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into years. Jake never stopped searching. He plastered posters on every street corner, called every shelter, but hope faded like an old photograph. Meanwhile, Leo, now a full-grown dog, wandered the streets, surviving scraps and kindness from strangers. His once glossy coat was matted, but his eyes still held the same warmth. Then, one cold night, a kind woman named Maria found Leo shivering behind a diner. She took him in, cleaned him up, and named him Lucky. But Leo never stopped staring at the door, as if waiting for someone. Maria often wondered, who did this sweet dog belong to? 5 years later, Jake, now a firefighter, was called to a burning apartment building. As he carried survivors to safety, a bark cut through the chaos. His blood ran cold. That sound, he'd know it anywhere. He turned, and there, being comforted by a woman, was Leo. Older, wiser, but unmistakably his dog. Their eyes locked. Leo's tail wagged so hard his whole body shook. Jake dropped to his knees. "Leo!" The dog lunged forward, knocking Jake over, licking his face wildly. Maria gasped. You're his owner?" Jake could only nod, tears streaming. But as Jake reached for Leo's collar, the dog hesitated. He looked back at Maria, whining. Jake's heart sank. Did Leo not remember him? Maria bit her lip. "He's been with me for 3 years. I didn't know." Jake swallowed hard. He couldn't just take Leo, not if the dog had a life here now. Then, Leo did something extraordinary. He nudged Maria's hand, then trotted to Jake, pressing his head against Jake's chest. Maria wiped her eyes. "He's choosing you." Jake choked back a sob. "But I don't want to take him from you." Maria smiled sadly. "He was never really mine." The car ride was silent except for Leo's happy panting. Jake kept one hand on the wheel, the other buried in Leo's fur. "Remember our old house, boy?" Leo yawned, resting his head on Jake's lap. But when they arrived, Leo froze. The house was different. New paint, an unfamiliar car in the driveway. Jake sighed. "Yeah, I moved. But your favorite blanket? Still here." He pulled out a ragged blue blanket from a box. Leo sniffed it, then let out a high-pitched whine, the same sound he'd made as a puppy. He circled 3 times before flopping onto it, sighing deeply. Jake laughed. "Welcome home, buddy." That night, as Jake lay in bed, Leo jumped up, curling against him just like old times. But sleep didn't come. Jake stared at the ceiling, wondering, what had Leo been through all these years? Scars littered Leo's body, some small, some alarmingly large. Leo sensed his distress. He licked Jake's hand, then nudged a photo frame on the nightstand, a picture of them the day before the storm. Jake's breath hitched. "You remember everything, don't you?" Leo's tail thumped. In that moment, Jake made a vow. No more goodbyes. Ever. Days passed in blissful routine. Morning runs, lazy Sundays, Leo stealing socks. Some things never changed. But one afternoon, Leo began acting strangely. He'd whine at the door, then pace, then stare intently at Jake. "What is it, boy?" Jake frowned. Then Leo did something shocking. He grabbed Jake's sleeve, tugging him toward the door. Hard. Okay, we'll go for a walk. But Leo didn't want a walk. He led Jake 3 blocks down, stopping at a storm drain. And that's when Jake heard it. Faint whimpers. Puppies. Trapped. Jake pried the heavy grate open, Leo barking encouragement. Deep inside, 4 tiny puppies huddled together, soaked and shivering. Good boy, Leo. Such a good boy. Jake carefully lifted them out one by one. Leo licked each pup frantically as if counting them. A crowd gathered. Someone filmed the whole thing. By nightfall, the video had gone viral. Hero dog saves puppies years after being rescued himself. Reporters swarmed Jake's house. Leo, ever humble, hid behind Jake's legs. But one reporter asked a chilling question. Did you know Leo was trained as a search and rescue dog during those missing years? Jake's blood ran cold. What? The reporter showed him an article. 3 years ago, a retired K9 trainer had found a stray golden retriever with an uncanny ability to track scents. They'd trained him briefly before he vanished again. Jake stared at Leo, who ducked his head guiltily. That night, Jake combed through old news clips, and there it was, grainy footage of Leo in a rescue vest, helping find a lost child. Jake's hands shook. You've been a hero all this time, huh? Leo yawned, as if to say, it was nothing. A week later, an official letter arrived. The National Search Dog Association wanted Leo and Jake to join their team. Jake laughed. You're kidding, right? But Leo's ears perked up at the word work. He fetched his old leash, tail wagging furiously. Jake hesitated. Was it fair to put Leo back in danger? But as he watched Leo track his hidden keys with hilarious precision, he realized this wasn't just a dog. This was a partner, a soulmate, and partners stick together. The first day at the search dog facility was overwhelming. Leo, usually so confident, hesitated at the entrance, the scent of other working dogs, the echoes of barks, the unfamiliar trainers in uniform. Jake knelt beside him. Nervous, boy? Me too. Leo licked his face, then squared his shoulders and marched in like he owned the place. Their trainer, a no-nonsense woman named Captain Reyes, put them through brutal drills. Leo aced the scent tests, but refused to leave Jake's side during the lost victim exercise. He's too attached, Reyes noted. Jake flushed with pride. That's not a bug, Captain. That's the feature. Their first deployment came unexpectedly. A mudslide had buried homes on the outskirts of town. The rain mirrored that long-ago storm when they'd been separated. Leo worked tirelessly, paws bleeding from debris, nose pressed to the ground. Then, a faint whimper under tons of rubble. Leo dug furiously until rescuers could pull out a little girl alive. As cameras flashed, the girl's mother grabbed Jake's arm. How did he know? Jake watched Leo lap water from a puddle, exhausted but wagging. He remembers what it's like to be lost. That night, for the first time, Leo dream chased in his sleep, legs twitching. Jake wondered, how many others had he found before coming home? During downtime, Jake found an old scar on Leo's belly, a jagged line, poorly healed. The vet's face darkened when examining it. This was a knife wound, defensive, like he was protecting someone. Jake's blood turned to ice. That night, he Googled frantically, Golden Retriever stabbed protecting owner. The headline hit like a punch. Good Samaritan saved dog who took knife for homeless man. The grainy photo showed Leo, younger, being loaded into an ambulance. Jake vomited in the sink. Leo nosed his hand worriedly. You took a knife for someone? Leo just wagged, as if to say worth it. The story went viral. Strangers sent Leo steak dinners and hand-knitted sweaters. But Jake noticed Leo staring at the door more often, especially when it rained. One evening, he followed Leo's gaze to a homeless shelter across the street. A man in a tattered coat was watching them. Recognition flashed in Leo's eyes. He let out a soft whine. The man, older with kind eyes, nodded once and walked away. Jake's throat tightened. Was that him, Leo? The one you protected? Leo licked Jake's palm, then lay down with a sigh. Some stories didn't need endings. During a routine search in the mountains, Leo suddenly froze, hackles raised. Before Jake could react, a mountain lion emerged from the brush. Time slowed. The cat lunged. Leo met it midair with a thunderous snarl. They rolled in a whirl of fur and fury. Jake's training kicked in. He fired a flare gun, scaring the predator off. Leo stood panting, a deep gash on his shoulder. "You idiot!" Jake sobbed, applying pressure. "You can't keep almost dying for me!" Leo licked the tears off Jake's face. The medevac helicopter's roar drowned out Jake's whispered, "Please don't leave me again." Back at the veterinary hospital, Leo's prognosis was grim. His age, his past injuries? The vet hesitated. Jake didn't care about the $15,000 surgery bill. He maxed out credit cards, sold his car. Neighbors donated. The little girl Leo had saved sent a jar of coins labeled "For My Hero." When Leo finally woke, his first action was to weakly thump his tail at the side of Jake. His second? Steal the vet's stethoscope. Jake laughed until he cried. "Yeah, you're definitely going to be trouble forever." The Search Dog Association retired Leo with full honors. At the ceremony, Captain Reyes presented a silver medal. "Most dogs track scents. This one tracks hearts." The crowd erupted. Leo, ever modest, tried to eat the medal. That night, Jake framed the medal alongside Leo's original lost dog poster. Leo sniffed it, then brought Jake his leash. "Oh no, buddy, you're done working." Leo huffed and dropped the leash on Jake's foot. Message clear. Retirement is boring. Jake compromised. They started visiting children's hospitals where Leo delighted in stealing IV poles and sneaking into beds for cuddles. One terminally ill boy whispered, "I want to be as brave as Leo." Jake had to step outside to compose himself. Later, the boy's mother handed Jake a drawing, a stick figure Jake and Leo under a rainbow. "He says when he gets to heaven he'll look for the people Leo couldn't save." Jake clutched Leo so tightly the dog grunted. That night, he added the drawing to the metal wall. Years passed. Leo's muzzle turned white, his steps slower. Then, on the anniversary of their separation, a hurricane hit. Jake, now a disaster response coordinator, was called in. Leo, despite his arthritis, stood by the door, leash in mouth. "Absolutely not," Jake said. Leo growled, his first ever at Jake. They stared each other down. Finally, Jake sighed. "Fine, but you're staying in the command truck." Leo wagged, clearly lying. As they drove through the storm, lightning illuminated the gas station where they'd been torn apart. Leo let out a soft howl. The past had come full circle. The hurricane's wrath was biblical. A collapsed nursing home became their focus. Leo worked methodically despite his pain. Then, a faint cry under rubble. Leo dug until his paws bled, revealing a trapped elderly woman. As rescuers pulled her out, she murmured, "Angel." Exhausted, Leo collapsed. Jake carried him to the vet, begging any god who'd listen. The diagnosis, advanced heart failure. "Days, maybe weeks," the vet said gently. Jake's world shattered. That night, he built a nest of blankets by the fire. Leo sighed contentedly, head on Jake's lap. The storm outside raged on. Morning brought eerie calm. Jake took Leo to their favorite beach. Leo, who could barely walk yesterday, suddenly pranced like a puppy, chasing gulls, splashing in waves. The last rally, the vet had called it. Jake memorized every second. At sunset, Leo stopped, panting. He looked at Jake with those deep brown eyes, then gently rested his head on Jake's chest. Jake's tears fell onto Leo's fur. "I love you more than anything," he whispered. Leo's tail wagged once, twice, then stillness. The funeral was standing room only. Search dogs, rescued survivors, even Maria attended. Jake scattered Leo's ashes at the gas station, where they'd been separated, now a memorial with a brass plaque, where lost things find their way home. That night, Jake dreamed of Leo, young, vibrant, racing through endless fields. He woke smiling, then sobbed into the empty space beside him. The house felt hollow, until a scratch at the door. Jake opened the door to a scrawny golden retriever puppy, shivering with a familiar gleam in its eyes. No collar, just a single blue thread tangled in its fur, the same color as Leo's old blanket. The puppy marched in like it owned the place. Jake's hands shook as he checked. No microchip. The puppy promptly fell asleep in Leo's old bed, sighing the exact same way. A neighbor whispered, "They say sometimes the dog chooses the human." Jake, unable to speak, simply nodded. The puppy, named Echo, grew into Leo's old vest. He aced search training but retained Leo's sock-stealing habits. Jake's metal wall now held 2 framed photos side by side, Leo mid-rescue and Echo, impossibly, making the same heroic leap. On the anniversary of Leo's passing, Echo led Jake to the storm drain where Leo had found the puppies years before. Inside, a single weathered tennis ball, Leo's favorite. Jake laughed through tears. "Okay, buddy, message received." Echo wagged wildly. Some bonds never die. Years later, an elderly Jake watched Echo train a new rescue pup. A child asked, "Why do good dogs have to leave?" Jake smiled. "Because the world needs more heroes waiting for us on the other side." That night, as fireflies danced, Jake swore he saw 2 golden shadows racing through the field. One young, one old. Together again. Echo barked joyfully at the empty air. And for the first time in decades, Jake didn't feel the ache of loss. Only love. Eternal. Months after Leo's passing, Jake was cleaning out his closet when a dusty shoebox tumbled open. Inside lay a yellowed envelope with clumsy handwriting. To Leo's owner. His hands shook as he unfolded it. "If you're reading this, I'm the homeless man your dog saved. Leo stayed with me for 6 months after the stabbing. He'd cry at night for Jake. I tried finding you, but the storm had wiped out records. Please know, he never gave up. Every day he'd sniff crowds, check alleys, searching. You were always his mission." Jake clutched the letter to his chest. Echo, sensing his grief, brought Leo's old tennis ball and dropped it on the page, as if to say, "He loved you most." A wildfire erupted near town. Echo, now a certified rescue dog, was deployed, but as they reached the evacuation site, a child's scream pierced the smoke. "My brother's trapped in the creek!" Without hesitation, Echo bolted into the inferno. Jake's radio crackled with static as the fire swallowed Echo from view. The world narrowed to the ticking clock. Then, a miracle. Echo emerged, dragging the boy by his shirt, just as Leo had years before. His fur was singed, his paws raw, but his tail wagged weakly. Jake collapsed beside him. "You stubborn, perfect dog." That night, as Echo slept bandaged in Jake's bed, Jake dreamed of Leo, glowing and healthy, standing by a sunlit bridge. "You raised him well," Leo seemed to say. Jake reached out, but Leo stepped back, nodding toward a puppy-shaped shadow in the distance. "There's one more who needs you." Jake woke with a gasp. Echo was licking his face urgently. The doorbell rang. Outside, a terrified beagle mix cowered in the rain, a note tied to its collar. Owner died in the fire. He helped save people, too. Jake opened the door. The beagle limped in and curled up beside Echo. On the 10th anniversary of Leo's rescue, the town unveiled a bronze statue, Leo mid-leap, forever saving the boy from the rubble. Jake spoke to the crowd. This isn't just for Leo. It's for every dog who loves unconditionally. Afterward, Echo and the beagle, now called Smoke, led Jake to the statue's base. There, pressed into wet cement, were 2 tiny paw prints. Jake laughed through tears. Cheaters. The crowd murmured in awe as sunlight hit the prints. They perfectly matched the bronze paws above. Years later, old Jake walked slowly through the autumn woods with gray-muzzled Echo and Smoke. His pockets bulged with tennis balls and treats. At the top of their favorite hill, he sat catching his breath as the dogs dozed in the golden light. A breeze rustled the leaves, strangely warm, like a sigh against his neck. Jake smiled. All right, boys, let's go home. As they ambled down the path, 3 shadows stretched long behind them. But for a single impossible moment, there were 4. Some bonds outlast even time.